Hello my dears, my name is Mariana and welcome to my channel. So if you've been here a while, or even if you haven't, you may have seen this video before where I talk about how to best prepare to get a tarot reading. But today what I want to talk about is not how to prepare to get a reading, but how to prepare to give one. I know a lot of you are probably beginner tarot readers who read not only for yourselves, but for other people. And maybe that's just friends and family, or maybe that's professional clients. Either way, you always want to make sure that you are doing the best job that you can do, and you always want to make sure that you do everything you can to prepare yourself correctly. And preparing to give a reading is so much more important than we realize. When we just throw ourselves into the ring of the reading without properly preparing, we are much more likely to get disoriented, to lose our grip on what we're doing, and to just have a bad reading. I have talked to a lot of beginner readers who have just started reading for clients or are getting better by reading for their friends and family, and they express this sort of stress that starts to come up after a while. They feel sort of suffocated by the expectation of getting the reading right. Or perhaps while they're in the reading, they start to get distracted with their own projections, their own feelings that are very related to the querent's feelings. Or worse, they get kind of overwhelmed in the moment itself and really disconnected from their intuition. And as beginner readers, we put so much of the emphasis on learning the meanings of the cards. We get so focused on what messages the cards have for our clients, for our querents, that we don't realize it's so much about where we are in the reading, how we're approaching it, how we're interpreting it. That requires us to be in the right headspace, the right heart space, the right soul space. In my years of experience as a tarot reader, and specifically an archetypal tarot reader, meaning I go a little bit deeper into the psyche, into the depths of my client's experience, I've curated a 4-step process that begins before the reading and then continues through the very beginning of it that has helped me ground, that has helped me drop really deep into that intuitive space. And honestly, once this kind of formulated in my practice, it absolutely transformed my readings, and it has just made them so much deeper, so much more accurate, just better for everybody. So if you know this sounds like something that might be helpful for you, stick around and let's get into it. So number 1, clear your head, clear your heart, and clear your space. I know this sounds a little obvious. No one wants to give a reading for a client or a friend when they're sitting in piles of recycling they haven't taken out. That doesn't always feel great. I am not a neat freak. I am not. My desk is a mess. Who knows where I've left my cards? It's okay. It's fine. My point is really that right before your reading, if you're looking at your notes from the last reading, or you have a book that's open on your desk that you know that you really should read and it's bugging you, this is going to be distracting. Clear your space. And if you have to, cleanse your space. Personally, I don't use a lot of cleansing magical items, but I do have a little intuition spray that I will spray around me and my cards right before I start to kind of suck in that energy, put it right there in front of me. I'll tidy, I'll make sure it's neat. It helps. And I don't even like to have a long extended period of time before reading where I'm like cleaning or setting myself up, because I feel like I'm putting a little bit too much pressure on the reading. If like an hour before the reading I'm already thinking about it, I'm just gonna get in my head a little bit. So 10 minutes before is plenty. I'll tidy up, I'll spray my space, and then I need to do the deeper cleansing, clearing work. It is really important before you go into a reading that you are not bringing your stuff to the reading. Like a therapist, when you enter the space where you're meeting your client, where you're entering that therapeutic container, you cannot have your issues with you. This is what ends up becoming this problem with projecting your own stuff onto your clients. This is inevitable. You are at some point going to encounter somebody who has a question about leaving their partner or finding their life purpose when you are also dealing with the questions of leaving your partner or finding your life purpose. Those are not accidents. The point is that you don't want to take your own decisions or your own fears about your situation and project that onto your client. Because the truth of the matter is, even if you're thinking about leaving your corporate job and starting a tarot practice and your client has the same question, the answer for them might be radically different than what it is for you. And it's important to have enough of a differentiation between you and your client to distinguish that. So I recommend taking a moment to just clear out, to meditate, to journal, whatever you like to do. I like to drop into my body to feel extremely present. So maybe that looks as simple as just staring at the cards, blinking a few times, and just shutting your mind off a little bit. And I know this is maybe something we wouldn't think to do automatically because we want to be really on to work with the cards. But actually, I think what we want is the opposite, and we're going to talk about that in a moment in one of the later steps. You want to make sure that your mind, your heart, and your soul are free and receptive. Okay, number 2, we need to discover and set the intention. If there's no intention for the reading, if there's no lens through which we're approaching it, you're more likely to have a very confusing time with the cards. Now, this is in no way to say that you have to have a specific question when you approach the cards. I actually don't think you do. Sometimes that ends up getting in the way more than it helps. But you don't want to enter a reading with a client when they don't know at all what they're trying to get out of it. You're going to pull the Moon and the Three of Wands, and then, why not? Let's throw the World card in there, and you're just going to have to make sense of that with no context. That really sucks. By the way, don't do that to your reader. Don't test them. Just tell them what you really want to know, like what's actually going on. It's just, oh my God. So what I do at the beginning of a reading, oftentimes I'll start a reading with a client and they'll say, I don't know, I just want to see what comes up, which is totally fair. But I'll usually ask them what's going on in their life right now. And I'll ask things like, what has your heart been feeling lately? What has been the question that keeps returning to your mind over and over again? What do you fear most right now? Those questions help me orient to what the person's emotional state is, what their deeper longings are, so that I can give them a clearer interpretation of the cards. Right at the beginning of your reading, after you've said hello and you've done the little spiel, whatever you like to do at the beginning, this is the moment to ask them to speak their intention, their question, what's on their mind, and then listen very, very closely. This is kind of where some readers get a little bit cocky. They tend to say,
oh, you're having an issue with your boyfriend. I got you. Say no more.
No. We want to know more. You want to know as much information as you can about your client's orientation to the problem. What I like to do is that I'll listen to my client tell me what's going on in their life, and then I'll reiterate it back to them. I'll say it back. This is so that I make sure not only that I know exactly what the client needs to know, but also so that the client knows that they're really heard, really seen. And then once we've gone through all this, we'll pull out a sentence, we'll set a clear intention for the reading, and then I like to light a candle just to symbolize that intention that is holding space as we sit in this reading together. And I think this is really important to do before we pull a single card. Because before we pull the cards, we need to have all the energy on the table. Everything needs to be exposed out in the open. Because this leads us to the next step, which is probably the most important one. So step number 3 is entering the lowered level. This is a little bit of a weird one, so bear with me for a second. As I said, I know that as tarot readers, we always want to feel very on.
We want to feel present. We want to feel like our brains are working overtime to make crazy connections of chaos symbols that we have no idea how they're speaking to each other.
It can feel like a lot of pressure. But I actually think that in order to access that space where we really know what the cards are coming to say, we kind of have to turn the mind off. You have to trust that your knowledge of the cards is going to show up for you, and that your own wisdom is going to be sharp and really prescient. So in writing about divination and parapsychology, psychologist Carl Jung often would reference a contemporary of his named Pierre Genet, who talked a lot about a concept called the abaissement du nouveau mental. Abaissement du nouveau mental. I took French since I was 11. And, you just gotta know when you're not good at something. You try. This is a state of lowered consciousness, of muted consciousness. We need to kind of turn off this conscious ego mind in order to sink deeper into the lower space of unconsciousness, the collective unconsciousness where what Carl Jung would call absolute knowledge lived. This is the space of the archetypes. This is a space from which the cards draw up their wisdom. And that's the space we want to enter. And as smart as we are, our minds are never going to be able to access that deeper space, that deeper wisdom, when we're so oriented to our thinking capacity. We actually want to drop down to go into the soul space so that we speak from that place. The online Oxford reference defines this abaissement du nouveau mental as a reduced state of concentration and attention, accompanied by loosening of inhibitions and relaxation of restraints, in which unexpected contents may emerge from the unconscious. So before I pull cards, I will actually take a few minutes with my client to intentionally enter this lowered state. This usually looks like a simple meditation, a visualization in which we are actually sinking from the mind down into the soul. I have a few different visualizations that I like to use, but basically I walk my client through exiting the light of consciousness and entering the dark of the unconscious. And while I'm guiding my client through this process of lowering the mental level, I am also doing that myself. I'm also kind of internally quieting the mind, calming the body, and bringing myself really into the space of silence and depth. And it's not really about clearing out anxiety or something beforehand, though that is a big benefit of doing this. It's really about just turning off the part of our brain, the part of our personality that wants to solve everything. Our ego mind, our I, is always trying to figure out how we figure out our problems. And in a reading, oftentimes as we pull cards, we're looking at them as how they're answers to our issues. But this is not how we want to explore the cards at first. We want to come to them with a total sense of openness, expectancy, not really anticipating anything, just being totally available to the deeper intuitions that they're coming to share. It's about trusting the process a little bit and surrendering to it, and it makes it so much more holistic, so much more beautiful, honestly. Okay, number 4, shuffle with excitement. This one's probably not one you expected. When you are about to shuffle, that should be the most thrilling moment of the whole reading. And I know that is a weird thing to say. Shuffling can be stressful. It stresses me out sometimes. I'm often like, how many times should I do this? Should I keep going? Is it right? Is it now? I don't know. It can be a lot. Personally, to work through that issue, I just have a set pattern that I shuffle every time. And if it needs more, I listen to that intuition, but generally it's prearranged for myself. But my point is that as we're shuffling the cards, we should be in this state of intensified expectancy. Because what we should be doing is anticipating what Carl Jung called the archetype of the magical effect. Psychologist Ira Progoff explains that after analyzing a lot of different trials, examining psychic ability, parapsychology, Jung noticed that it wasn't individuals who had more success in doing things like guessing the image behind a card, but those who were excited that they were going to guess right. So in other words, it wasn't a person's intuitive skill, it was their state of mind. It was actually them accessing a deeper archetypal experience that put them in alignment with a knowledge beyond themselves. And it is that deeper realization of that experience that puts us in alignment with it. Jung often also called this the archetype of the miracle. When we're anticipating the miracle, when we know that these cards are just going to align in this perfect way and it could never be more exactly right, there should be this sense of awe, this total just amazement with what's about to happen. And when we're shuffling the cards, if we can access that total faith that exactly what's going to happen is meant to happen, when we can really feel that thrill of, oh my God, what is going to come for this person at this moment of their life, we are in so much more alignment with our intuition. So I really encourage you, as you're shuffling, instead of thinking, God, I hope these are going to be the right cards, think, oh my God, these are going to be the right cards. That simple reorientation is going to make all the difference. This actually can be really fun, and as I shuffle for my clients, I try to be really internally curious about what in the world is going to come through for them, and just really fully experiencing myself as the channel for that. It's incredible, it's exhilarating, and it always makes the most amazing cards come through. So try it out, give it a test drive and see how it works. And if it does work, let me know in the comments. So my friends, I think those are my 4 stages of preparing to give a tarot reading. And if you have any more that you want to suggest, please tell me in the comments. I'm fascinated by it. I really want to know. If you aren't already, make sure to subscribe to this channel so you get more videos like this. And of course, go follow me on Instagram for daily dives into witchy, wonderful things. I also encourage you to check out grabbing my Archetypal Tarot booklet, which is totally free. There's a link in the description down below so that you can start to examine how to maybe read the cards a little bit more archetypally, maybe as a beginner professional or just somebody who's getting their bearings with the cards. It's a really deep dive. It's great. So go get that free resource. And of course, go check out the other video about how to prepare to get a tarot reading, because as readers, you know you also have to be getting readings, right? So thanks for being here, my dears. Have a beautiful, meaningful day. Abaissement de niveau mental. Abaissement de niveau mental. I took French for a long time.